Good evening and welcome to the latest episode of the Demolition Daily Livestream. I'm your host, Mark Anthony. We're 2 days into the second UK lockdown, 3 days into the US presidential election, and frankly, we're none the wiser on any of it. So let's just crack on with the show, shall we? Explosive demolition's a funny old game, isn't it? It's the part of the industry that even non-demolition people seem to enjoy the most. A blowdown can attract people from miles around in the freezing cold, in the pouring rain, and in the early hours of the morning. And yet it's the part of the industry that sadly is probably the most open to criticism. Whenever we post a video of a blowdown on our social media channels, the responses are about as tiresome as they are predictable. There will be the usual, there was too much dust or there was too much noise. Those are usually followed by a lot of, but what about the poor bats, the rats, the stray cats, the foxes, badgers, shrews, moles and voles? And then there's my personal favourite. That proves that 9/11 was a controlled demolition. Everyone, it seems, is an expert. Case in point, on Sunday last week, the former police headquarters over in Wrexham in Welsh Wales was felled in a controlled blast. It was a very weird top-heavy building, kind of like a lolly on a stick, as you're about to see. As Wales was already in a lockdown at this point, I decided to stay at home and watch it from a distance, but based purely on some initial, if rather sketchy and amateurish YouTube footage, the building seemed to come down just fine. Before we move on any further, let's take a look. Now, there are probably half a dozen or so UK explosives engineers that could have pulled off that job. But apparently there are hundreds more armchair experts out there that were far from satisfied. So much so, in fact, that Robin Rushford of PCD, the company that worked with demolition contractor Total Control Demolition Services to carry out the blast, took to LinkedIn to explain just why this awkward block fell the way it did. And this is what he had to say. Various people have asked if the building collapsed as intended. The answer is yes, it came down exactly as predicated. A wedge-shaped section of the walls was blasted out of the base to cause the building to topple over like a chimney. Due to the main tower being narrow, it meant that it would only take a slight wind to put the walls into tension as the building tried to blow over. This meant that it was not safe to cut the steel reinforcing bars in the back of the tower as we would have done with a chimney. The answer to that problem was to blast a single row of holes at the back of the tower and 2 stories of height at the front. This allowed the tower to sit straight down in the first instance, which broke the starter bars that came out of the foundation before the tower then rolled forwards. The drone video shows clearly the tower landing directly on the hardcore cushion placed to absorb some of the vibration. So there you have it, straight from the horse's mouth, as they say. Of course, none of that is likely to silence the armchair critics and experts, and I feel Robin's pain, to be honest. Virtually every podcast, every video, every feature article I produce is greeted by at least one person saying, "I wouldn't have said it like that." If only there was a face covering to ensure that these armchair experts kept their opinions and their coronavirus themselves. We'll be right back after this. Probably a bit early for Christmas adverts, but hey, you know, you've got to look after the little ones, haven't you? So if you want to buy that My Dad Does Demolition book, you can find it over on Amazon. And it's me that wrote it, so just look for my name, Mark Anthony. Has anything good come out of COVID-19 and the subsequent lockdown? Well, personally, I have spent more time with my family. I think that's a good thing. They might feel differently. My dogs have probably had a bit more exercise than usual. I've caught up on a huge backlog of books and audiobooks and podcasts and YouTube videos as well. And I've largely perfected my sourdough bread recipe as well. But probably the best thing to come out of this ongoing, all of this is an ongoing collaboration with two of the industry's biggest influencers. Peter Haddock over at Content Media, whose podcast really is a must listen for anyone in the wider construction industry, and Nick Drew of the Diggerman blog, who is a pretty big deal on the social media. If you're not already following Diggerman blog and Content Media, believe me, you're missing out, and they're probably in the chat right about now saying that I'm speaking the truth. Nick was out on site recently with Squid Group, checking out their recently purchased Lugong excavators. Now, pre-COVID, content sharing between supposedly rival publications and influencers was a major no-no. But following a great collaborative trip to ConExpo in Las Vegas just before the world went completely bananas, that's no longer the case. And so I'm pleased to share with you a film that was shot by Nick, edited by my son Fred, who runs the Diggers and Dozers website and the YouTube channel as well. And it's now making its world premiere right here on the Demolition Daily live stream. You ready? Here we go. Pretty good, right? We've had a couple of comments in here. Peter Haddock of Content Media, who I was just talking about before we played the video, said that you can find his podcast exactly where he's put the link in. I'll leave that link up as part of the stream as well. Had a comment from Nick, who shot the film that you've just watched as well. Loving that. Nice work, Fred. Yeah, thank you very much indeed. I shall pass that on. There is always one, isn't there? Dirty Harry, you might as well be talking to yourself, Mark. There's no one in the chat, mate. Like two people watching. Harry, if that's actually your name, you're watching on YouTube. This is also being broadcast over on Facebook, and you can take it from me. There are many, many, many more than two people watching. Peter, back again. Squib Excavator's working very hard indeed. Just shows how much effort has gone into making them. Totally agree. I'm not being paid to say this, but you have to say Lugong have made some serious inroads into the UK demolition industry. They really have, particularly over the last few years. And anybody that was critical of them to begin with, and I would count myself among those, the very fact that the likes of Keltbray and Squib have gone back and made repeat orders, I think speaks volumes for the machine. So yeah, criticize them all you like, but they're clearly up to the job and proving it day by day. And just to prove that the Lugong connection. Hi Charlotte, good evening. Charlotte works at Lugong, does a fine job over there. Good to see you, Charlotte. Great collaboration, Nick and Fred. Totally agree. More of the same, gentlemen, please. Now, before I let you get back to your lockdown life, I just wanted to say something else. Writing about demolition is my job. It is how I earn my living and pay my bills. But to me, it's more than that. Having done it for so long now, I consider it both an honour and a duty to be part of this incredible industry. And so, however long it lasts, we will be with you throughout the remainder of this lockdown. We won't be taking any furlough money or closing the office or laying off staff. If you're at work, then we'll be at work right along with you. And with that in mind, we will be back on Monday evening, 6 o'clock, same time, same place. We're going to be talking about drink and drug testing that night. So if you've had a heavy weekend, you might want to steer clear of that episode. But if not, we will be back here, same time, same place. Look after yourselves over the weekend. Look after yourself the rest of the time as well. Look after your family, your friends, and your colleagues as well. I will see you next week. In the meantime, I will play you out with... What am I going to play you out with? I will play you out in honour of Peter Haddock, who has been watching. I will play you out with this.
If you'd like the future of the construction sector beamed directly into your ears, simply search for Content with Media on iTunes or your preferred podcast platform. Your ears will thank you.